When Nia Palmer rushed to the most important job interview of her life, she never imagined that stopping to help a stranger would cost her everything she'd worked for. The elderly man, clutching his chest on the sidewalk, needed help more than she needed that position at Sterling & Co., or so she thought. Little did she know that Walter Sterling, the man she saved, was the father of the very CEO she was supposed to meet. What started as a missed opportunity becomes the beginning of a love story that proves sometimes the best things in life happen when you choose compassion over ambition. Before we start this story, comment below from where you are watching us. The morning sun streamed through the thin curtains of Nia Palmer's small apartment. At 25, she was already carrying the weight of responsibilities that would crush most people her age. Today was special, though. Today, everything could change. Nia stood in front of the cracked mirror in her bathroom, smoothing down the navy blazer she'd found at the thrift store last week. It fit almost perfectly, and you couldn't even tell it had been worn before. She'd spent an hour ironing it last night after her shift at the diner. "You can do this," she told her reflection, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. "This is your chance." The interview at Sterling & Co. was scheduled for 10 a.m. The hospitality group was known for turning unknowns into executives. With her business degree almost complete, this junior position could be her ladder out of endless diner shifts and constant worry about bills. The sound of coughing from the next room interrupted her pep talk. "Marcus, you okay?" she called out, quickly grabbing her purse and the resume she'd printed at the library yesterday. Her 16-year-old brother appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas, hair sticking up in all directions. "I'm fine," he said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Just got something stuck in my throat. You look nice." Nia smiled, feeling a surge of love for the boy who'd become her responsibility after their mother's death 3 years ago. Cancer had taken her quickly, leaving Nia to step up as both sister and parent. "I've got that interview today, remember? There's cereal in the cabinet and I made you a sandwich for lunch. It's in the fridge." Marcus nodded, clearly still half asleep. "You're gonna get it. They'd be stupid not to hire you." "From your lips to God's ears," Nia said, checking her watch. "I've got to go. I'll text you when I'm done." "Kill it, sis," Marcus called as she hurried out the door. The morning air was crisp, and Nia walked quickly, her sensible heels clicking on the sidewalk. The Sterling & Co.'s offices were downtown, about a 30-minute bus ride from her neighborhood. If she caught the 9:15 bus, she'd be right on time. As she approached the diner where she worked evenings, she noticed a small crowd gathering on the sidewalk ahead. Something was happening. A few people had their phones out, but most were just walking around whatever it was, heads down, determined not to get involved. Nia slowed her pace, curiosity winning out over her hurry. As she got closer, she saw what had caused the commotion. An elderly man was on the ground, looking disoriented and clutching his chest. Her heart dropped. The man's face was pale, his breathing labored. No one was helping him. They were just standing there, watching or recording or just walking by. Without thinking twice, Nia pushed through the small crowd and knelt beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, setting her purse down and gently touching his shoulder. The man's eyes found hers, cloudy with confusion and pain. I don't feel right," he managed to say, his voice weak. Nia immediately took charge. "Someone call 911, she called out to the bystanders. When no one moved immediately, she pulled out her own phone and made the call herself, her voice clear and calm as she described the situation and location. "Help is coming," she assured the man, taking his hand. "I'm Nia. What's your name?" "Walter," he responded, his grip surprisingly strong for someone in distress. "Walter Sterling." Nia didn't make the connection to the company she was interviewing with. She was too focused on helping the man in front of her. "Nice to meet you, Walter. I'm going to stay right here with you until the ambulance comes, okay?" The minutes ticked by. Nia checked her watch once, 9:10. The 9:15 bus would be gone by the time the ambulance arrived. A knot formed in her stomach as she realized what this meant, but she pushed the thought away. This man needed help more than she needed a job interview. When the ambulance finally arrived, the paramedics worked quickly to stabilize Walter. As they prepared to load him into the vehicle, he gripped Nia's hand again. "Please," he said, his eyes pleading. "Don't leave." One of the paramedics looked at Nia. "Are you family?" She hesitated for just a second. "No, but I can ride with him if that's allowed." He seemed scared. The paramedic nodded, and before she knew it, Nia was sitting in the back of an ambulance, holding Walter Sterling's hand as they raced toward the hospital. Her interview time came and went, but Nia couldn't bring herself to regret her decision. At the hospital, things moved quickly. Walter was taken for tests, and Nia was left in the waiting room. She finally checked her phone. 10:45. She had missed the interview completely. Fighting back tears, she called the Sterling and Camp HR department, but got only a voicemail. She left a message explaining the situation, though she doubted it would make any difference. "Excuse me," a nurse approached her. "Are you the young woman who came in with Mr. Sterling?" Nia nodded. "He's asking for you. The doctor wants to speak with family, but Mr. Sterling insists you be there too." Confused but willing, Nia followed the nurse to a private room where Walter was now resting in a bed, looking much better than he had on the sidewalk. A doctor was checking his vitals. "There she is," Walter said, his voice stronger now. "The good Samaritan who saved my life." The doctor turned to Nia with a warm smile. "Mr. Sterling had a minor heart episode. Thanks to your quick action, we were able to treat him before any damage occurred. He's going to be just fine." Relief washed over Nia. "That's wonderful news." Walter reached for her hand again. "I can't thank you enough, young lady. Most people just walked by, you stopped, you helped." Nia squeezed his hand. "Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Walter pointed out. "You did." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a tall, imposing man in his early 30s. He wore an expensive suit and had storm-gray eyes that immediately locked onto Nia with an intensity that made her step back. "Dad," the man said, his voice deep with concern as he approached the bed. "What happened? The hospital called and said you had a heart episode." "Calder, I'm fine," Walter assured him. "Thanks to this young woman right here. She found me on the sidewalk, called the ambulance, even rode with me here." "Calder Sterling." Nia suddenly made the connection to Sterling & Co. and felt her heart sink even further, turned those intense eyes on her again, but this time with curiosity rather than suspicion. "You helped my father." Nia nodded, suddenly feeling self-conscious in her thrift store blazer. "I was just walking by. He needed help." "She's being modest," Walter interjected. "Everyone else just gawked or walked past." "She took charge of the whole situation." Calder's expression softened slightly. "Thank you, that was kind." Before Nia could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "How did the interview go?" Reality crashed back in. Nia looked at her watch again, almost noon now. "I should go," she said quietly. "I'm glad you're feeling better, Mr. Sterling." "Wait," Walter called as she turned to leave. "You never told me your name." "It's Nia Palmer." Something flickered across Calder's face at the mention of her name, but he quickly masked it. "Nice to meet you, Nia Palmer," Walter said with a warm smile. "I won't forget what you did today." Nia nodded and hurried out, fighting back tears. By the time she reached the bus stop, she couldn't hold them in anymore. She had missed the most important interview of her life. Her chance at a better future had slipped through her fingers. That evening, Nia was back at the diner, serving coffee and burgers with her usual warm smile, though her heart wasn't in it. She had told Marcus what happened, and while he assured her she'd done the right thing, it didn't make the disappointment any easier to bear. "Table 5 needs a refill," Betty, the other waitress on shift, called to her. Nia grabbed the coffee pot and headed to table 5 without looking up. "Refill, sir?" she asked automatically. "Please," came a familiar, deep voice. Nia's eyes snapped up to meet the storm-grey gaze of Calder Sterling. He was sitting alone in her section, a manila folder on the table in front of him. "Mr. Sterling," she gasped, nearly spilling the coffee. "Is your father okay?" "He's fine," Calder assured her, watching as she carefully filled his cup. "They're keeping him overnight for observation, but he'll be released tomorrow thanks to you." Nia nodded, unsure what to say. "That's good to hear. You were supposed to interview at my company today," he said abruptly. Nia froze, coffee pot still in hand. "How did you know that?" "I checked the interview schedule when I heard your name. Nia Palmer, 10 a.m., Junior Hospitality Coordinator position." His eyes never left her face. "You didn't show up. I called and left a message explaining—" "I know why you missed it," he interrupted. "Because you were saving my father's life." Betty called from across the diner. "Nia, table 8 needs you." "I have to go," Nia said, flustered. "When do you get off?" Calder asked, surprising her. "Excuse me, your shift, when does it end?" "At 9, Calder nodded. "I'll wait." And he did. For the next 2 hours, Calder Sterling sat in her section, drinking coffee and working on his laptop. Nia felt his eyes on her whenever she passed by, and it made her nervous and curious all at once. At 9 o'clock sharp, Nia hung up her apron and grabbed her purse from the break room. Outside, Calder was waiting by a sleek black car. "Mr. Sterling, I don't understand why you're here," she said, pulling her jacket tighter around herself. Call me Calder, he said, his voice softer than it had been in the hospital. And I'm here because I'd like to reschedule your interview. Hope flickered in Nia's chest, but she tamped it down. That's not necessary. I'm sure you have other candidates. Over dinner, he continued as if she hadn't spoken. Tomorrow night. Nia stared at him, confused. Dinner? You're offering me a second chance at the interview. Over dinner. A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. Yes, and maybe it could be a date too, if you want. A date? Nia repeated, incredulous. You don't even know me. I know enough, Calder replied. I know you stopped to help when no one else would. I know you stayed with a stranger all the way to the hospital, missing an important interview in the process. I know you're smart enough to be considered for Sterling & Co., and I know my father hasn't stopped talking about the angel who saved him. Nia's cheeks warmed at the compliment, but her pride bristled. So you're offering me a second chance at the interview out of gratitude, or pity? Neither, Calder said firmly. I'm offering it because someone who makes the choice you made today is exactly the kind of person I want working at my company. And I'm asking you to dinner because... He paused, seeming almost uncertain for the first time. Because I'd like to get to know that person better. Nia was speechless. This morning she had been preparing for a life-changing interview. Now, the CEO of the company was asking her to dinner. So, Calder prompted when she didn't respond. What do you say? Dinner tomorrow, 7 p.m.? Nia thought about Marcus at home, about her bills, about her almost finished degree. She thought about the way Calder looked at her, like he could see something in her that others missed. Just to be clear, she said finally, finding her voice, you're offering me a second chance, or a date? Calder's smile widened, reaching his eyes for the first time. Both, he replied. Only if you want them. Nia considered him for a long moment before answering. I don't need pity, Mr. Sterling. Calder, he corrected gently. Calder, she repeated. I don't need pity. I just need someone who doesn't underestimate the way I show up. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, perhaps. I think I've already seen exactly how you show up, Nia Palmer, and I'm impressed. For the first time since missing her interview that morning, Nia smiled a real smile. Then yes, she said. Dinner tomorrow sounds nice. As Calder opened the car door for her, offering to drive her home, Nia couldn't help but wonder if missing that interview had been the worst luck of her life, or maybe, just maybe, the best thing that had ever happened to her. The night sky above them was clear and full of stars, much like the unexpected possibilities now opening up before her. Nia stood in front of her closet, staring at the few nice items she owned. Nothing seemed right for dinner with a CEO, especially one who might be her future boss. What about this one? Marcus asked, holding up a simple black dress Nia had worn to their mother's funeral. She shook her head. Too sad. I need something hopeful. Marcus flopped onto her bed. I still can't believe the CEO of Sterling & Co. asked you out. That's like something from a movie. It's not really a date, Nia corrected, though Calder's words, both, only if you want them, kept replaying in her mind. It's more like an interview at a fancy restaurant with a hot rich guy, Marcus teased. Sure, sis. Nia threw a pillow at him, which he caught easily. Don't you have homework to do? Done. And I'm staying at Kevin's tonight, remember? His mom already said it's cool. Nia bit her lip. She had forgotten about that arrangement. You sure you'll be okay? Marcus rolled his eyes. I'm 16, not 6. Go on your date. Get the job, live a little. Nia finally settled on a simple emerald green dress, her mother's taken in and hemmed, and her only pair of decent heels. She couldn't afford to get her hair done, but she managed to style it in loose waves that framed her face nicely. At precisely 7:00 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up outside their apartment building. Nia's heart jumped when she saw Calder himself step out, rather than a driver. He was dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, his dark hair swept back, those storm-grey eyes intense as ever. You look beautiful, he said simply when she opened the door. Nia felt herself blush. Thank you. You clean up nice yourself. The restaurant was unlike anywhere Nia had ever been. Soft lighting, white tablecloths, waiters in formal attire. She felt out of place until Calder gently touched her elbow, guiding her to a private table in the corner. Don't be nervous, he said, apparently noticing her discomfort. It's just dinner. And an interview, she reminded him and herself. Calder smiled, that small, barely there smile. That too. After they ordered, Calder recommending dishes Nia had never heard of, an awkward silence fell between them. Nia fidgeted with her napkin, unsure whether to act like a date or a job candidate. Tell me about yourself, Calder finally said, breaking the silence. beyond what's on your resume. Nia took a deep breath. Well, I'm 25. I've been working at Joe's Diner for almost 4 years now. I'm finishing up my business degree at community college, taking night classes. Family. A shadow crossed Nia's face. My mum died 3 years ago. Cancer. It's just me and my little brother Marcus now. He's 16. Calder's expression softened. You're raising him alone? Nia nodded. We manage. He's a good kid. That's a lot of responsibility for someone your age. Life happens, Nia said simply. You adjust. Their food arrived. Perfectly plated dishes that looked too beautiful to eat. Nia tried not to show her amazement at the flavors as she took her first bite. And what about Sterling & Co? Calder asked. Why do you want to work for us specifically? Nia straightened her shoulders, shifting into interview mode. Your company has a reputation for recognizing talent and developing it. You've turned waiters and bartenders into executives. I don't just want a job, I want a career, and I believe Sterling & Co. is the place where I can build one. Calder studied her for a moment. That's a good answer, but I'm more interested in why you think you'd be good for us. Nia hadn't expected that question. She thought about it before answering. I'm a hard worker. I don't quit when things get tough. I'm good with people. You have to be in the service industry. And I'm loyal. When I commit to something, or someone, I follow through. Something flickered in Calder's eyes. Like staying with a stranger in an ambulance even when it cost you an opportunity. That wasn't about loyalty, Nia corrected. That was just being human. Exactly, Calder said, leaning forward slightly. And that's rarer than you might think. The conversation flowed more easily after that. Calder told her about the company, how his grandfather had started with one hotel, how his father had expanded it, and how Calder himself had modernized it when he took over as CEO at just 28. Your father seems like a good man, Nia observed. Calder's expression tightened slightly. He is, though we don't always see eye to eye. On business matters. On everything, Calder admitted. He thinks I'm too focused on profits. I think he's too sentimental. And what does your mother think? Nia asked. She died when I was 12, Calder said, his voice neutral in a way that suggested practiced control. Car accident. Nia reached across the table without thinking, touching his hand briefly. I'm sorry. Their eyes met, and for a moment, something passed between them, a shared understanding of loss. Calder cleared his throat, pulling back slightly. Tell me about your classes. What's your favorite subject? The rest of dinner passed pleasantly, with Calder asking about her studies and Nia sharing her dreams of someday perhaps opening her own small business. Nothing fancy, just a cafe where people feel at home. When dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate creation that made Nia's eyes widen, Calder finally addressed the elephant in the room. So, about the position at Sterling & Co? He began. Nia set down her fork, bracing herself. Despite the pleasant evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that this had all been a polite gesture, rather than a real opportunity. I'd like to offer it to you, Calder continued. Junior Hospitality Coordinator, starting next Monday. The salary is 15% higher than what was advertised to compensate for your experience. Nia stared at him, speechless. Just like that? Don't I need to interview with HR or something? Calder's mouth quirked up at one corner. I'm the CEO, Nia. I can hire who I want. But you barely know me, she protested. This dinner was the interview, he finished for her, and you passed with flying colors. Plus, I had my assistant do a background check. Your references from Joe's Diner were glowing, and your professors speak highly of you. Nia felt a flash of irritation. You checked my references without telling me. Standard procedure, Calder replied, unfazed. I may be interested in you, but I'm still a businessman. The words interested in you hung in the air between them. So, Calder said, his eyes intent on her face, will you accept the position? Nia thought about what this would mean. Regular hours, better pay, a foot in the door of a company known for promoting from within. She could finish her degree faster, provide better for Marcus. It was everything she'd been working toward. Yes, she said finally. I accept. Calder's smile was warm. Good. I'll have HR send over the paperwork tomorrow. As they left the restaurant, Nia expected a car to be waiting, but instead Calder suggested they walk for a bit. The night was clear and mild, the streets of the upscale neighborhood quiet. Thank you for dinner, Nia said, after they'd walked a block in comfortable silence. And for the opportunity. Thank you for saving my father, Calder replied, though I want to be clear. That's not why I hired you. I hired you because you're qualified and impressive. Nia nodded, wanting to believe him. There is one thing we should discuss, Calder said. his tone becoming more serious. About us. Us? Nia echoed, her heart beating faster. I'm attracted to you, Calder stated plainly, stopping to face her, and I think you might feel something too. But I'm going to be your boss, and that complicates things. Nia swallowed hard. It does. So I'm going to suggest something, he continued. We keep things strictly professional, for now, until you've established yourself at Sterling & Co., based on your own merits. No special treatment, no rumors about how you got the job. Relief and disappointment mingled in Nia's chest. That's probably wise. I'm known for being wise, Calder said, a hint of humor in his voice. Ruthless, calculating, and wise. Nia raised an eyebrow. Ruthless. Should I be worried? Only if you're my competition, he replied, his eyes softening as they met hers. Not if you're on my team. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibilities neither of them was ready to explore. I should get you home, Calder finally said, breaking the spell. In the car, Nia gave him directions to her apartment building. When they arrived, Calder insisted on walking her to her door, ever the gentleman. Monday, 9 a.m., he reminded her at her doorstep. Ask for Patricia in HR. She'll get you set up. I'll be there, Nia promised. On time. Calder smiled. I know you will. There was a moment when Nia thought he might lean in, might kiss her, but instead he simply took her hand and squeezed it gently. Good night, Nia Palmer. Good night, Calder Sterling. She watched him walk back to his car, wondering what she'd just gotten herself into. Monday morning arrived with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Nia had spent the weekend preparing, researching Sterling & Co. in detail, buying a new outfit with some of her savings, practicing what she would say to her new colleagues. The Sterling & Co. headquarters was an impressive glass building downtown. Nia took a deep breath before walking through the revolving doors into the marble lobby. At the reception desk, she gave her name and asked for Patricia in HR. Minutes later, a brisk, efficient woman in her 50s appeared to escort her upstairs. Mr. Sterling mentioned you helped his father, Patricia said as they rode the elevator to the 14th floor. That was kind of you. It was nothing, really, Nia replied, uncomfortable with the attention. Patricia gave her a knowing look. Mr. Sterling doesn't think so. And what Mr. Sterling thinks is what matters around here. The HR process was straightforward. Paperwork, ID badge, company overview. By 11 a.m., Nia was being shown to a small but nice office on the 12th floor where the hospitality coordination team worked. This is where you'll be, Patricia explained. You'll report to Diana Mercer, the senior hospitality director. She's traveling today but will be back tomorrow to get you started. Nia nodded, trying to take it all in. Her own desk, her own computer, a window with a view of the city. It was more than she'd dared to hope for. One more thing, Patricia said, handing Nia a sealed envelope. Mr. Sterling asked me to give you this once you were settled. Curious, Nia opened the envelope after Patricia left. Inside was a simple note on Sterling & Calder letterhead. Nia, welcome to Sterling & Co. I have every confidence you'll excel here. My father would like to thank you properly. Dinner at his home this Saturday, 7 p.m. I'll pick you up at 6:30. This is not a request from your boss, just an invitation from a grateful son and his father. Calder. Nia read the note twice, unsure how to feel. She had promised herself she would keep things professional, but a dinner at Walter Sterling's home didn't sound very professional at all. Before she could overthink it, her office phone rang. Startled, she picked it up. Hello, Nia Palmer speaking. Ms. Palmer, this is Diana Mercer, came a crisp female voice. I understand you're joining my team. Yes, Ms. Mercer. I just arrived today. I'll be back in the office tomorrow, but I wanted to welcome you and give you your first assignment. Of course, Nia said, grabbing a pen and pad of paper from the desk. The Wellington Hotel account needs attention. Their staff turnover rate is too high and guest satisfaction scores are slipping. I want you to review their operations data and have recommendations ready by Friday. Nia's heart raced. This was a real assignment, a chance to prove herself from day one. I'll get right on it. Good, one more thing, Diana added, her tone shifting slightly. I understand you have a personal connection to the Sterling family. Nia froze. I wouldn't call it that. I just happened to help Mr. Sterling's father when he was ill. Diana hummed, clearly unconvinced. Well, just remember, in this department, we succeed on merit, not connections. I'll see you tomorrow, Miss Palmer. The line went dead, leaving Nia staring at the phone. It seemed she already had something to prove, and possibly an enemy in her new boss. The next few days were a whirlwind. Diana Mercer turned out to be as intimidating in person as she was on the phone. Tall, immaculately dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She was fair but demanding, and it was clear she had reservations about Nia's sudden hiring. Nia threw herself into the Wellington Hotel project, staying late each night to analyze data and develop solid recommendations. She was determined to show Diana and everyone else that she deserved her place at Sterling & Co. She saw Calder only once that week, in passing as he exited a conference room surrounded by executives. Their eyes met briefly, and he gave her a small nod, completely professional. Nia wasn't sure if she was relieved or disappointed. Friday afternoon, Nia presented her Wellington Hotel recommendations to Diana. She'd identified key issues in their training program and suggested specific improvements to reduce turnover. Diana listened without expression, taking occasional notes. When Nia finished, the older woman studied her for a long moment. "Not bad," she finally said. "You missed some financial implications, but your people-focused solutions are insightful." Coming from Diana, Nia suspected this was high praise. "Thank you, Ms. Mercer." "Diana," the woman corrected, closing her notebook. "We're colleagues now, Nia." Nia smiled, feeling like she'd passed some kind of test. "I understand you're having dinner with the Sterlings tomorrow," Diana commented casually as she stood to leave. Nia blinked in surprise. "How did you know that?" Diana's lips curved in a small smile. "Very little happens in this company that I don't know about. A word of advice. The Sterling men can be complicated, especially Calder." "We're keeping things professional," Nia assured her. "See that you do," Diana replied. "Calder has a history of brief, intense interests, in businesses and in people. Just be careful." With that cryptic warning, Diana left, leaving Nia with more questions than answers. Saturday evening arrived, and Nia found herself once again preparing for an evening with Calder Sterling, only this time his father would be there too. She chose a simple but elegant dress in soft blue, hoping it struck the right balance between formal and approachable. Calder arrived precisely at 6:30, looking devastatingly handsome in a navy suit. His eyes warmed appreciably when he saw her. "You look lovely," he said. "Thank you," Nia replied, trying to keep her tone light. "How's your father doing?" "Much better, and excited to see you again." The car ride was filled with easy conversation about Nia's first week at Sterling & Co. Calder seemed genuinely pleased that she was settling in well. "Diana Mercer is tough but fair," he told her. "If you impress her, you impress everyone." "I'm trying," Nia admitted. "She mentioned something about you, though." Calder glanced at her. "Oh? Something about you having brief, intense interests?" Nia tried to keep her tone casual, but the question had been bothering her. Calder's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Diana and I have known each other a long time. She's seen me make some impulsive decisions." "About businesses or people?" Nia asked, echoing Diana's words. "Both," Calder admitted after a pause. "I've been known to pursue things and people intensely, and sometimes that intensity doesn't last." Nia absorbed this, unsure how to feel about his honesty. "Is that what this is?" she asked quietly. "An intense interest that won't last?" Calder pulled the car over suddenly, turning to face her fully. His grey eyes were serious, almost troubled. "I don't know," he said simply. "This is different. You're different." The honesty in his voice made Nia's heart beat faster. "Different how?" "You stopped for someone who had nothing to offer you," Calder said slowly, as if working it out himself. "That's the kind of loyalty I've never had from anyone I've dated. Most people want something from me, my money, my influence, my connections. You didn't even know who my father was when you helped him." Nia wasn't sure what to say to that. It was true. She hadn't known Walter Sterling was anyone important when she stopped to help him. She would have done the same for anyone. "We should go," Calder said finally, putting the car back in drive. "My father is waiting." Walter Sterling's home was not what Nia expected. Rather than a mansion, it was a spacious but tasteful house on a tree-lined street, warm and inviting, despite its obvious luxury. Walter himself answered the door, looking much healthier than the last time Nia had seen him. His smile was broad and genuine as he welcomed her. "There she is," he exclaimed, taking both her hands in his. "My guardian angel." Nia smiled, embarrassed by the effusive greeting. "I'm hardly an angel, Mr. Sterling, but I'm glad to see you looking so well." "Walter, please," he insisted, leading her into a comfortable living room. "And it's all thanks to you, my dear. If you hadn't stopped that day—" "Dad," Calder interrupted gently, "let's not dwell on what-ifs. Nia's here now and dinner is waiting." The evening was surprisingly enjoyable. Walter was a charming host, full of stories about the early days of Sterling & Co., and clearly proud of what his son had accomplished. "Though sometimes I think he works too hard," Walter commented, giving Calder a pointed look. "All business, all the time, no balance." "Says the man who built this company from 1 hotel to 30, Calder retorted good-naturedly. "Yes, but I always made time for family," Walter countered. "For your mother, God rest her soul, and for you." A shadow passed over Calder's face, gone so quickly Nia almost missed it. "Different times, different challenges," Calder said mildly. Walter turned his attention to Nia. "And what about you, my dear? What do you think about work-life balance?" Nia considered the question carefully. "I think when you care about someone, you make time for them no matter how busy you are. But I also understand ambition, the drive to succeed." Walter nodded approvingly. "A wise answer. You see, Calder? Balance." After dinner, while Calder took a business call, Walter showed Nia family photos. Young Calder with his mother, a beautiful woman with his same storm-grey eyes. Calder graduating college. Calder taking over as CEO, looking serious and determined. "He changed after his mother died," Walter said quietly, looking at a photo of 12-year-old Calder. "Became more driven, more focused, like he was trying to outrun the pain." Nia's heart ached for the boy in the photo. "That's a lot for a child to handle." "Yes," Walter agreed, "and I'm afraid I wasn't much help. I buried myself in work too." He sighed, then brightened. "But enough sad talk. Tell me about yourself, Nia. How are you finding Sterling & Co.?" By the time Calder returned, Nia and Walter were chatting like old friends. Something in Calder's expression softened as he watched them. "Dad's not boring you with old stories, is he?" he asked, rejoining them. "Not at all," Nia assured him. "He was just telling me about your first hotel project." "The Denver disaster," Calder groaned. "He loves that story, because it shows how you learn from mistakes," Walter said proudly. "The mark of a true leader." As the evening drew to a close, Walter took Nia's hands again. "Promise you'll come back and see an old man again soon?" "I'd like that," Nia said sincerely. In the car, heading back to her apartment, Nia felt Calder watching her at stoplights. "What?" she finally asked. "My father likes you," he said simply. "He doesn't like many people." "I like him too," Nia replied. "He's kind. He wasn't always," Calder said quietly. "After my mother died, he was distant. Work became everything. It's only in recent years he's softened." "People change," Nia observed. "Sometimes they just need a reason to." Calder didn't respond to that, but when they reached her apartment, he walked her to the door again. This time there was a tension between them, an awareness that went beyond boss and employee. "Thank you for tonight," Nia said, fishing for her keys. "It was lovely." "Nia," Calder said, his voice low, "the professional boundaries we discussed." She looked up at him, heart hammering. "Yes? They're getting harder to maintain." Their eyes held, and Nia felt herself swaying slightly toward him. But before either of them could act on the impulse, the apartment door swung open to reveal Marcus, looking surprised to find his sister with a man at the door. Hi," he said, eyes darting between them curiously. "Marcus," Nia said, stepping back from Calder. "This is Mr. Sterling, my boss. Mr. Sterling, this is my brother, Marcus." Calder extended his hand, completely composed. "Nice to meet you, Marcus. Your sister speaks highly of you." Marcus shook his hand, clearly impressed. "Thanks for giving her the job. She deserves it." "Yes," Calder agreed, his eyes finding Nia's again. "She does." The moment broken, Calder bid them both good night and returned to his car. Nia watched him drive away, her emotions a confused jumble. "So that's the boss, huh?" Marcus said as they went inside. "Seems intense." "He is," Nia agreed, unable to stop a small smile. "Very intense." As she got ready for bed that night, Nia thought about Diana's warning, about Calder's admission of brief, intense interests, about the professional boundaries they'd agreed to maintain. Logic told her to keep her distance, to focus on her career, but her heart remembered the way he looked at her, the genuine warmth in his voice when he said, "You're different." And for the first time in years, Nia Palmer allowed herself to want something beyond security and stability. She allowed herself to dream of possibilities. Even if those possibilities came with complications, she wasn't sure she was ready to face. Weeks passed, and Nia settled into her role at Sterling & Co. She proved herself a quick learner, impressing Diana and her colleagues with her work ethic and fresh ideas. The Wellington Hotel was already showing improvement based on her recommendations, and Diana had assigned her 2 more properties to evaluate. Nia still saw Calder occasionally, in meetings, in the elevator, in the company cafeteria. Their interactions remained strictly professional, though Nia couldn't help noticing how his eyes lingered on her when he thought no one was watching. She had visited Walter Sterling twice more for dinner, once with Calder present, and once when he was traveling on business. The older man had taken a genuine liking to her, and Nia found his stories about the early days of Sterling & Co. fascinating. It was after one such dinner that Walter brought up something unexpected. "We're having our annual charity gala next month," he mentioned, as Nia helped him clear the dishes, despite his protests that she was a guest. "For the Sterling Foundation. It's our biggest event of the year." "I've heard about it around the office," Nia replied. "Everyone's excited." "You should come," Walter said, his eyes twinkling. "As my personal guest." Nia nearly dropped the plate she was holding. "Oh, I don't think—" "Nonsense." Walter waved away her objection. "You'd be doing an old man a favor. These events are terribly boring without good company." "What about Calder?" Nia asked. "Won't he be there with you?" Walter's expression turned knowing. "Oh, he'll be there, but he's always working the room, talking business, no time for his old dad." Nia suspected this was an exaggeration, but she couldn't deny she was tempted. The Sterling Gala was legendary. Celebrities, politicians, the elite of the business world. She'd never been to anything so glamorous. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," she admitted. "That's easily fixed," Walter said with a dismissive gesture. "Say yes, and I'll have my assistant take you shopping. My treat." "I couldn't let you—" "Nia," Walter interrupted gently, "you saved my life. Let me buy you a dress." Put that way, it was hard to refuse. "All right," she agreed, "but nothing too extravagant." Walter just smiled, in a way that suggested he had his own ideas about extravagant. The next day at work, Nia debated whether to mention the invitation to Calder. They hadn't spoken privately in weeks, both honoring their agreement to keep things professional. But attending his family's gala as his father's guest seemed like something he should know about. She was still debating when Diana called her into her office. "Close the door," Diana instructed, not looking up from the report she was reading. Nia complied, a knot of anxiety forming in her stomach. Had she done something wrong? "The Reynolds Resort account," Diana said, finally looking up. "I'm putting you in charge of it." Nia stared at her. The Reynolds Resort was Sterling & Co.'s newest acquisition, a luxury property in the Caribbean that was underperforming despite its prime location. "But that's a senior-level account," Nia said, before she could stop herself. "Yes, it is," Diana agreed, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "Consider it a test. You've shown promise these past weeks. Let's see what you can really do." Nia's mind raced with the implications. This was a huge opportunity and a huge risk. Success could fast-track her career. Failure could end it before it really began. "Thank you for the opportunity," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I won't let you down." "See that you don't," Diana replied, then added, "There's one more thing. The Reynolds family will be attending the Sterling Gala. You'll need to be there to meet them." "Actually, I've already been invited," Nia said. "By Walter Sterling." Diana's eyebrows rose slightly. "Have you now? Interesting." Nia felt compelled to explain. "It's not. We're just friends. He's been kind to me since the day I helped him." Diana studied her for a moment. "Nia, can I give you some advice? Not as your boss, but as someone who's been in this industry a long time?" "Of course." "Walter Sterling is a lovely man, but he's also shrewd, and he adores his son." Nia frowned, confused. "I'm not sure I follow." Diana sighed. "Just be careful. The Sterling men are used to getting what they want, and right now, for whatever reason, both of them want you in their lives." Before Nia could respond to this cryptic warning, Diana's phone rang. "That's all for now," she said, already reaching for the receiver. "I expect a preliminary plan for Reynolds by next week." Nia left Diana's office with her head spinning. The Reynolds account, the gala, Diana's warning, it was a lot to process, and she still hadn't decided whether to tell Calder about his father's invitation. The decision was made for her when she nearly collided with him as she rounded a corner, her arms full of Reynolds Resort files. "Whoa," Calder said, steadying her with his hands on her shoulders. "Where's the fire?" The contact, brief as it was, sent a jolt of awareness through Nia. She stepped back, clutching the files to her chest. "Sorry, Mr. Sterling. I was distracted." Calder glanced at the files. "Reynolds Resort. Are you working on that account?" "Diana just assigned it to me," Nia confirmed. Something flickered across Calder's face. Surprise, maybe even concern. That's a challenging property. I'm aware, Nia said, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. I can handle it. Calder's expression softened. I know you can. He stopped, seeming to catch himself. Diana wouldn't have assigned it to you if she didn't think you were capable. An awkward silence fell between them. Nia shifted the files in her arms. Was there something else? Calder asked, noticing her hesitation. Your father invited me to the Sterling Gala, she blurted out. As his guest. I wanted to make sure that was okay with you. Calder's eyebrows rose. My father invited you? Yes. He said I'd be doing him a favor, keeping him company. Nia bit her lip. If it's awkward, I can make an excuse. No, Calder interrupted. No, it's fine. I'm just surprised. My father doesn't usually invite people to these things. He barely tolerates them himself. Oh? Nia wasn't sure what to make of that. He must really like you, Calder added, his voice softer. Their eyes met, and Nia felt that now familiar pull between them. She wondered if he felt it too. I should go, she said quietly. I have a lot of work to do on this account. Calder nodded, stepping aside. Of course. Good luck, Nia. She was halfway down the hall when he called after her. Nia? She turned. Yes. You'll look beautiful at the gala, he said simply, then turned and walked away before she could respond. The next 2 weeks were a blur of work and preparation. The Reynolds account consumed Nia's days, while thoughts of the gala and Calder filled her nights. Walter made good on his promise, sending his personal assistant to take Nia shopping for a gown. Despite her protests, she ended up with a stunning midnight blue dress that probably cost more than her rent. Marcus teased her mercilessly about it. You're turning into Cinderella, he joked as she showed him the dress. Next thing you know, you'll be riding in a pumpkin carriage. It's just a work event, Nia insisted, though they both knew it was more than that. The night of the gala arrived with a flurry of nerves. Nia had her hair done professionally for the first time in years, an expense she justified as necessary for meeting the Reynolds family. The result was an elegant updo that showcased her slender neck and the simple silver earrings that had been her mother's. Walter sent a car for her, but to her surprise, he wasn't in it. Instead, a note waited on the seat. Nia, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm afraid I've been detained at the hospital. Routine tests, nothing to worry about, but the doctors insist I stay overnight for observation. Calder knows you're coming as my guest. He'll look after you. Enjoy the evening, my dear. You've earned a night of glamour. Nia's stomach twisted with anxiety. Without Walter as a buffer, she would be alone with Calder, in a room full of people who knew him, who worked for him, who might wonder who she was and why she was there. But it was too late to back out now. She took a deep breath and texted Marcus to let him know she was on her way. The Sterling Gala was held at the Grand Plaza Hotel, Sterling & Co.'s flagship property. The ballroom was transformed into a winter wonderland, with crystal decorations catching the light from chandeliers and casting rainbow reflections across the white draped tables. Nia gave her name at the door and was escorted to a table near the front. The Sterling family table, she realized with a flutter of nerves. It was still empty, though most of the other tables were filling up with guests in designer gowns and tuxedos. She was debating whether to wait at the table or find the Reynolds family when a hush fell over the nearby guests. Nia turned to see what had caught their attention and froze. Calder had entered the ballroom, looking devastatingly handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. But it wasn't his appearance that caused the stir. It was the woman on his arm. She was tall, blonde, and gorgeous, in a way that seemed almost unreal, like a movie star or a model. Her red gown clung to every curve, and diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists. She held onto Calder's arm possessively, smiling at the attention they attracted. Nia felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. Of course Calder would have a date. He was young, handsome, wealthy, powerful. Why had she assumed he would be alone? She watched, unable to look away, as Calder guided the blonde woman through the crowd, stopping to speak with various guests. They looked perfect together, like they belonged in this world of wealth and privilege. Nia suddenly felt very small in her borrowed finery. She was debating whether she could slip away unnoticed when a waiter approached with a glass of champagne. "From the gentleman at the bar," he said, indicating a well-dressed older man who raised his own glass in a toast when she looked his way. Before Nia could decide how to respond, Diana appeared at her side, elegant in a simple black gown. "The Reynolds family just arrived," she said without preamble. "Come, I'll introduce you." Grateful for the distraction, Nia followed Diana to where a middle-aged couple was accepting drinks from a server. Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, Diana greeted them warmly. May I introduce Nia Palmer? She's heading up the team that will be working with your resort. Mr. Reynolds, a heavy-set man with a florid face, looked Nia up and down skeptically. You seem a bit young for such responsibility. Nia straightened her shoulders. Age and experience aren't always the same thing, Mr. Reynolds. I've studied your property extensively, and I believe I understand both its challenges and its potential. Mrs. Reynolds, a thin woman with sharp eyes, seemed to approve of this response. Bold, I like that. Tell me, Miss Palmer, what do you see as our resort's biggest problem? Without missing a beat, Nia launched into her analysis, the outdated marketing strategy, the disconnect between the luxury price point and the merely adequate service, the failure to capitalize on local culture as a unique selling point. By the time she finished, both Reynolds were looking at her with new interest, and Diana was smiling slightly. You've done your homework, Mr. Reynolds acknowledged. I'm impressed. We should continue this discussion over dinner, Mrs. Reynolds suggested. Perhaps you could join us at our table. Before Nia could respond, a familiar voice spoke from behind her. I'm afraid Miss Palmer is already committed to the Sterling table this evening. Nia turned to find Calder standing there, his expression unreadable. The blonde woman was nowhere to be seen. Calder, Diana greeted him with a nod. I was just introducing Nia to the Reynolds. So I see, Calder replied, his eyes not leaving Nia's face. You look stunning, he said quietly, as if they were alone and not surrounded by curious onlookers. Nia felt her cheeks warm. Thank you. Where's your father? Mrs. Reynolds asked, glancing around. I was hoping to speak with him about the Foundation's work. Hospital, Calder said shortly. Routine tests. He sends his regrets. Nothing serious, I hope, Mr. Reynolds inquired. Just a precaution, Calder assured him. Since his episode a few months ago, the doctors are being extra careful. That was when you helped him, wasn't it, Nia? Diana asked, though she clearly already knew the answer. All eyes turned to Nia, who nodded uncomfortably. I just happened to be there. She's being modest, Calder said, surprising her by placing a hand gently on her lower back. She saved his life, missed a job interview to stay with him at the hospital. The Reynolds looked impressed, and Nia felt her embarrassment deepen. It really wasn't. Her interview was with Sterling & Co., Calder continued, something like pride in his voice. She missed meeting me to help my father. How fortunate that worked out for her, Mrs. Reynolds commented, her eyes sharp with speculation. Nia stiffened at the implication. If you'll excuse me, she said, stepping away from Calder's touch. I need to visit the ladies' room. She made her escape, feeling eyes on her back as she walked away. In the quiet elegance of the restroom, she gripped the marble counter and took deep breaths, trying to calm her racing heart. The door opened, and Diana entered, her expression concerned. Are you all right? Nia nodded, though she wasn't sure it was true. I'm fine, it's just overwhelming. Diana studied her reflection in the mirror. Calder's never brought her to a company event before. Who? Nia asked, though she knew exactly who Diana meant. Vanessa Harrington, the woman he came in with. They've had an on-again, off-again thing for years. Her father owns Harrington Hotels, our biggest competitor. Nia tried to look as if this information didn't affect her. It's none of my business who Mr. Sterling dates. Isn't it? Diana asked quietly. Their eyes met in the mirror, and Nia realized that Diana knew about her feelings for Calder, about the tension between them, about all of it. We agreed to keep things professional, Nia said finally. It's better that way. Diana nodded slowly. Perhaps. But Calder Sterling looking at someone the way he looks at you, that doesn't happen often. Before Nia could respond, the door opened again, and the blonde woman herself, Vanessa, walked in. She stopped short at the sight of them, her perfectly shaped eyebrows rising slightly. Diana, she greeted the older woman coolly, then turned her gaze to Nia. I don't believe we've met. Nia Palmer, Diana supplied, when Nia hesitated. One of our rising stars in the hospitality division. How nice, Vanessa said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. Her eyes swept over Nia, taking in her dress, her hair, her borrowed jewelry. You look familiar. Have we met before? I don't believe so, Nia replied, keeping her voice neutral. Nia is Walter's special guest tonight, Diana explained, a hint of mischief in her eyes. He's quite taken with her. Something flickered in Vanessa's expression. Walter? Really? She laughed lightly. How sweet. He always did have a soft spot for charitable cases. Nia felt her cheeks burn, but before she could respond, Diana stepped in. Actually, Nia saved Walter's life. And she's just been put in charge of the Reynolds account. Quite an achievement for someone only with us a few weeks. Vanessa's smile tightened. How impressive. Though I suppose having the sterling men in your corner helps, doesn't it? Nia earned her position through merit, Diana said firmly. As I'm sure you earned yours at Harrington Hotels? The barb hit home. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, but she maintained her composure. Touché, Diana. Always the loyal soldier. She turned back to Nia. Enjoy your evening, Miss Palmer. These events can be quite educational for newcomers. With that parting shot, she swept out, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume. Well, Diana said after a moment, that was interesting. Nia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Who is she, really? Vanessa Harrington is old money, old connections. She and Calder have history. They travel in the same circles. Their families know each other. On paper, they're a perfect match. But, Nia prompted, sensing there was more. But Calder has never seemed particularly happy with her, Diana finished, and from the way he was looking at you earlier, I'd say he's reconsidering his options. Nia shook her head. I can't compete with someone like her. Perhaps you don't need to, Diana suggested. Perhaps you've already won. When they returned to the ballroom, dinner was about to be served. Nia found herself seated at the sterling table between an empty chair, Walter's, and Diana. Across from her was Calder, with Vanessa beside him, her hand resting possessively on his arm as she chatted with the grey-haired man on her other side. Calder caught Nia's eye briefly, his expression apologetic, but Vanessa quickly reclaimed his attention. The dinner itself was exquisite, though Nia barely tasted it. She focused on making conversation with Diana and the other executives at their table, determined to prove she belonged there professionally, if not socially. After dinner came speeches, Calder speaking eloquently about the Sterling Foundation's work, followed by a video presentation showing the various charitable projects they supported. Nia found herself genuinely moved by the Foundation's commitment to education and healthcare for underprivileged communities. When the formal part of the evening concluded, the band began playing and couples moved to the dance floor. Nia watched as Calder led Vanessa out for the first dance, the two of them moving together with the ease of long familiarity. Don't look so glum, Diana advised, handing Nia a fresh glass of champagne. The night isn't over yet. As if on cue, Mr. Reynolds appeared at their table. Ms. Palmer, would you do me the honor? He asked, gesturing to the dance floor. Nia accepted with a polite smile, glad for the distraction. As they danced, Mr. Reynolds continued their earlier conversation about the resort, seeming genuinely interested in her ideas. When the song ended, Mrs. Reynolds cut in, and Nia found herself being passed from one business associate to another, all people Diana had strategically introduced her to throughout the evening. She was just taking a break at the edge of the dance floor when a new partner appeared before her. May I have this dance? Calder asked, extending his hand. Nia hesitated, glancing around for Vanessa. I don't think that would be appropriate. One dance between colleagues? Calder pressed, his eyes never leaving hers. I think the company can survive the scandal. Despite herself, Nia smiled. Where's your date? Networking, Calder replied vaguely. Please, Nia, one dance. She placed her hand in his, trying to ignore the warmth that spread up her arm at the contact. He led her to the center of the floor just as the band switched to a slower number. Calder drew her carefully into his arms, maintaining a respectable distance between them, though even that felt too intimate with his eyes on hers. I'm sorry about my father, Calder said as they began to move to the music. He didn't tell me he wouldn't be here until the last minute. It's fine, Nia assured him. Is he really okay? Calder nodded, just being cautious after what happened before. I understand, Nia said softly. They danced in silence for a moment, each acutely aware of the other. You really do look beautiful tonight, Calder said finally, his voice low. That color suits you. Thank you, Nia replied, trying to keep her tone light. Your father has good taste. He always has, Calder agreed. In businesses and in people. Another silence fell between them, more charged than the last. I didn't know you were bringing someone tonight, Nia said finally, unable to help herself. Calder's expression tightened. It was a last-minute decision. Vanessa and I have history. So I've heard. He looked surprised. From who? People talk, Nia said with a small shrug, especially about the boss. What else do they say about me? Calder asked, genuinely curious. Nia considered him for a moment. That you're brilliant, driven, sometimes ruthless. And do you believe them? I believe you're complicated, Nia answered honestly, more than people give you credit for. Something softened in Calder's expression. Nia, may I cut in? A cool female voice interrupted. They turned to find Vanessa standing beside them, a brittle smile on her perfect face. Nia immediately stepped back from Calder's embrace. Of course, she said quickly. Thank you for the dance, Mr. Sterling. Calder looked like he wanted to object, but Vanessa was already sliding into his arms, claiming him. Don't forget our breakfast meeting tomorrow, Ms. Palmer, he said formally, though his eyes communicated something else entirely. 9 a.m. sharp. Nia nodded, grateful for the excuse to see him again. I'll be there. She walked away, feeling Vanessa's eyes boring into her back. She'd just reached the edge of the dance floor when she overheard a snippet of their conversation. Really, Calder, Vanessa was saying, her voice carrying just enough for Nia to hear. First your father adopts her as a pet project. Now you're dancing with her at the gala. People are talking. Nia didn't hear Calder's response, but the damage was done. She suddenly felt every bit the outsider she was, the waitress playing dress-up at a ball where she didn't belong. She managed to say her goodbyes to Diana and the Reynolds, making an excuse about an early morning the next day. No one questioned it, and soon she was in a taxi heading home, the midnight blue dress pooling around her like a fantasy dissolving back into reality. Marcus was still up when she got home, waiting to hear all about the glamorous event. You're back early, he observed, as she kicked off her painful heels. How was it? Educational, Nia replied, sinking onto the couch beside him. Very educational. Did you dance with the boss? Marcus teased. Nia's expression must have given something away, because Marcus's eyebrows shot up. You did? Spill the details, sis. There's nothing to spill, Nia insisted. We danced. He was there with someone else, someone perfect for him. End of story. Marcus studied her face. But you like him? It wasn't a question. Nia sighed, too tired to deny it. It doesn't matter. We work together. He's my boss. He lives in a different world. He's just a guy, Nia, Marcus said gently. And you're amazing. Any man would be lucky to have you. Nia smiled, touched by her brother's loyalty. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best, he replied with a grin. Now, tell me everything about this fancy party. Did they have those little hot dogs wrapped in pastry? Nia laughed, grateful for his ability to lighten her mood. As she described the evening to him, the food, the music, the glamorous guests, she pushed thoughts of Calder dancing with Vanessa to the back of her mind. Tomorrow was another day. She had work to do, a career to build. She couldn't afford to be distracted by impossible dreams. But as she finally climbed into bed that night, the memory of Calder's hand on her back, his eyes holding hers as they danced, refused to fade. Just a crush, she whispered to herself in the darkness. It'll pass. But deep down, Nia knew it was already too late for that. Somehow, without meaning to, she had fallen for Calder Sterling. And from the way he had looked at her tonight, despite Vanessa, despite their agreement to keep things professional, she suspected he might be falling for her too. The question was, what were they going to do about it? The morning after the gala, Nia arrived at Sterling & Co. headquarters precisely at 8:45 a.m., giving herself time to prepare for her 9 a.m. meeting with Calder. She wore her most professional outfit, a navy blue suit that she'd purchased with her first Sterling & Co. paycheck, and carried a folder containing her detailed plans for the Reynolds resort. She was reviewing her notes in the conference room when Calder entered, looking as if he hadn't slept well. His customary crisp appearance was slightly rumpled, his tie just a fraction looser than usual. Good morning, Nia greeted him, trying to keep her voice professional despite the memory of dancing in his arms the night before. Morning, Calder replied, closing the door behind him. He hesitated before taking a seat across from her. About last night. I have the Reynolds proposal ready, Nia interrupted, not wanting to discuss the gala or Vanessa or anything personal. I think you'll be impressed with the direction we're taking. Calder studied her for a moment, then nodded, accepting her redirection. Let's see it. For the next hour, they focused entirely on business. Nia presented her ideas for revitalizing the Reynolds resort, and Calder asked insightful questions that helped refine the plan. It was exactly the kind of professional interaction they had agreed to maintain. But as Nia gathered her papers to leave, Calder spoke again. Vanessa isn't who you think she is. Nia froze, unsure how to respond. Mr. Sterling, Calder, he corrected automatically. At least when we're alone. She sighed, finally meeting his eyes. Calder, your personal life is none of my business. What if I want it to be? He asked quietly. The question hung between them, dangerous and tempting. Nia gripped her folder tighter. You're my boss, she reminded him. We agreed to keep things professional. And if I wasn't your boss? Calder pressed. If there were no complications. But there are, Nia said firmly. You are my boss, and you were with Vanessa last night. Calder ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. Vanessa and I have history, yes. Our families have pushed us together since we were teenagers. But it's not— He stopped, seeming to struggle with what to say next. It's not what I want anymore. Nia felt her resolve weakening, but steeled herself against it. I think we should focus on work, Mr. Sterling. The Reynolds account needs attention, and I have a meeting with Diana in 20 minutes. Calder looked like he wanted to say more, but after a moment he nodded. You're right. We'll talk about this another time. Is there anything else you need for the Reynolds presentation? Nia asked, desperate to return to safer ground. No, Calder said, his professional mask sliding back into place. You've done excellent work, Miss Palmer. Diana was right about you. Nia nodded her thanks and escaped, her heart hammering in her chest. Part of her wanted nothing more than to continue that conversation, to explore what might be possible between them. But the sensible part, the part that had kept her and Marcus afloat after their mother died, knew better than to risk everything for feelings that might not last. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work. Nia threw herself into the Reynolds account, determined to prove herself through her professional achievements, rather than her connection to the Sterling family. She traveled to the Caribbean to assess the resort firsthand, spending long days interviewing staff and guests, identifying problems, and developing solutions. When she returned to New York, she had a comprehensive revival plan that even the skeptical Mr. Reynolds approved enthusiastically. Diana was impressed enough to mention a possible promotion before the end of the year. You've exceeded expectations, she told Nia during their review meeting. The Reynolds account alone would be impressive, but you've maintained your other properties at high standards as well. Thank you, Nia said, genuinely pleased. I've learned a lot from you. Diana smiled, a rare, full smile that transformed her usually stern face. You've got a bright future here, Nia. Don't let anything or anyone distract you from that. The implicit warning was clear. Diana knew about the tension between Nia and Calder, and she was cautioning against it. Nia nodded, assuring her boss that her priorities were in order, but avoiding Calder proved increasingly difficult, especially when Walter Sterling invited her to his home for dinner again. She tried to decline, making excuses about work, but Walter was persistent. Please, Nia, he said during one of his phone calls, I miss our conversations, and I have something important I want to discuss with you. Unable to refuse the kind older man, Nia finally agreed, though she made sure to ask if Calder would be there. No, Walter assured her. He's in Chicago this week. It'll just be us. Relieved, Nia arrived at Walter's home on Friday evening to find him looking better than he had in weeks. His color was good, and his eyes were bright with excitement. There she is, he exclaimed, greeting her with his usual warmth. My favorite dinner companion. The evening was pleasant, with Walter asking about her work and sharing stories about the early days of Sterling & Co. It wasn't until dessert that he brought up what was clearly on his mind. Nia, I've been thinking about the future, he began, setting down his coffee cup. Both the company's and my own. Nia nodded, encouraging him to continue. I'm not getting any younger, Walter said with a wry smile. That episode on the sidewalk a few months ago was a wake-up call. I need to get my affairs in order. I'm sure you have many good years ahead of you, Nia assured him, concerned by the serious turn in conversation. Walter patted her hand. From your lips to God's ears, my dear. But wisdom means preparing for all possibilities. He took a deep breath. I've decided to establish a new charitable foundation, separate from the company. Something more personal. That sounds wonderful, Nia said, genuinely pleased for him. What kind of work will it do? Educational scholarships, Walter replied, for promising young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, people who work hard and show real potential but need a helping hand. Like you did for me, Nia observed softly. Walter's eyes twinkled. You inspired me, my dear. Your determination, your intelligence, your kindness, even when it cost you. The world needs more Nia Palmers. Nia felt touched by his words. That's a beautiful idea, Walter. I want you to run it, he said simply. Nia stared at him, sure she had misheard. What? I want you to be the foundation's director, Walter repeated. Full salary, of course. More than you're making now. A proper office, staff, budget for programs. But I don't know anything about running a foundation, Nia protested. I'm just starting my career in hospitality. You know about hard work and recognizing potential, Walter countered. The rest, you can learn. I'll be there to guide you initially. Nia's mind raced. It was an incredible opportunity, meaningful work, a significant promotion, a chance to help others like herself. But something about it felt wrong. Does Calder know about this? She asked suddenly. Walter's expression turned evasive. Not yet. I wanted to speak with you first. Why me? Nia pressed, suspicion growing. There must be dozens of qualified people you could choose. Walter sighed, setting down his napkin. Nia, I've come to care about you a great deal these past months. You remind me of myself when I was young, determined, principled, unwilling to take shortcuts. And I've seen how my son looks at you. Nia felt her cheeks warm. Walter, let me finish, he said gently. Calder has always been driven, especially since his mother died, but he's never found someone who understood him, who challenged him to be better, until you. Calder and I are colleagues, Nia insisted. Nothing more. Walter gave her a knowing look. My dear, I may be old, but I'm not blind. There's something between you two, something real, but you're both too stubborn and too professional to act on it. Because it would be inappropriate, Nia pointed out. He's my boss. Exactly, Walter said triumphantly. But if you were running my foundation instead of working at Sterling & Co., that obstacle would disappear. Nia suddenly understood. You're offering me this job so Calder and I can date? Put so bluntly, it sounded ridiculous. Walter had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Not just for that reason, he clarified. You're genuinely qualified and would do wonderful work. But yes, removing that particular complication would be a happy side effect. Nia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The offer was both touching and mortifying. Walter was trying to play matchmaker, and while his intentions were good, his meddling was unwelcome. I'm flattered, she said carefully, but I need to earn my success on my own terms, and any relationship I might have with Calder, which is purely hypothetical, needs to develop naturally, not because his father engineered it. Walter looked disappointed but not surprised. You're as principled as I thought. I respect that. He reached for her hand. Will you at least think about the foundation? It's a genuine offer, regardless of anything else. I'll think about it, Nia promised, though in her heart, she already knew her answer. When she left Walter's house that night, she was so preoccupied with thoughts of his offer that she didn't notice the black car parked across the street. Nor did she see Calder watching her from the driver's seat, his expression troubled. The next morning, Saturday, Nia was surprised by a knock on her apartment door. Marcus was out at basketball practice, so she answered it herself, still in her pajamas and robe. Calder stood in the hallway, looking more casual than she'd ever seen him in jeans and a simple sweater. Calder, she gasped, pulling her robe tighter. What are you doing here? We need to talk, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. May I come in? Flustered, Nia stepped aside to let him enter. Her small apartment suddenly felt tiny with his presence filling it. She was acutely aware of the shabby furniture, the faded paint, the stack of bills on the counter. I thought you were in Chicago, she said, trying to gather her composure. I came back early, Calder replied, his eyes taking in her humble surroundings with interest rather than judgment. I saw you leaving my father's house last night. Nia's eyes widened. Were you spying on me? I was going to surprise him, Calder corrected, but then I saw you there and I didn't want to interrupt. So you just watched me leave? Nia asked, incredulous. I know how it sounds, Calder interrupted, but after you left I went in and talked to my father. He told me about the foundation, about his offer to you. Nia felt her face flush with embarrassment. Oh, is that why you've been avoiding me? Calder asked, his voice gentler now. Because you're considering leaving Sterling & Co. I haven't been avoiding you, Nia denied automatically, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. And no, I'm not considering your father's offer. Calder looked surprised. You're not? Why not? It's a great opportunity. Because I want to succeed on my own merits, Nia said firmly. Not because Walter Sterling likes me, or because his son might... She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. Because his son might what? Calder prompted, taking a step closer to her. Nia stood her ground, though her heart was racing. You know what? I'd like to hear you say it, Calder insisted softly. This is exactly why I've been keeping my distance, Nia said, frustration building. These complications. I've worked too hard to be seen as someone who slept her way to the top. Calder flinched as if she'd slapped him. Is that what you think this is? No, Nia admitted. But it's what others would think. Vanessa made that pretty clear at the gala. Vanessa doesn't matter, Calder said dismissively. She seemed to matter quite a bit when you brought her as your date, Nia pointed out. Calder ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Nia was beginning to recognize as a sign of his frustration. That was a mistake. Vanessa and I, we have history, yes. Our families have business connections. It was easier to bring her than to explain why I didn't. And now? Nia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Now I'm here, Calder said simply, talking to the woman I can't stop thinking about. The words hung between them, honest and raw. Nia felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. Calder, The apartment door opened, interrupting whatever she was about to say. Marcus walked in, sweaty from basketball practice, and stopped short at the sight of Calder Sterling in their living room. Hi, he said, glancing between them curiously. Marcus, this is Calder Sterling, Nia said, grateful for the interruption. My boss. Calder, this is my brother, Marcus. We've met briefly, Calder reminded her, extending his hand to Marcus. Good to see you again. Marcus shook his hand, clearly impressed by Calder's presence in their home. You too, sir. Just Calder, please, he corrected with a smile. An awkward silence fell over the three of them. I should go shower, Marcus said finally, sensing the tension. Nice to meet you, Calder. Once Marcus had disappeared into the bathroom, Nia turned back to Calder. You should go, she said quietly. We haven't finished our conversation, Calder objected. I think we have, Nia replied. Nothing has changed. You're still my boss. I'm still your employee. Anything else is complicated. Calder studied her face for a long moment. What if I told you I've been offered a position on the National Hospitality Board? It would mean stepping back from day-to-day operations at Sterling & Co. Nia's eyes widened. Are you serious? My father and I have been discussing it for months, Calder confirmed. It's a prestigious position and it would allow me to influence policy across the industry. Diana would take over as CEO of Sterling & Co. Diana, Nia repeated, surprised. She never mentioned. It's not finalized yet, Calder explained. But if I accepted, I wouldn't be your boss anymore. The implication was clear. Without the professional barrier between them, they would be free to explore their feelings for each other. You would give up being CEO? Nia asked, finding it hard to believe. For what? For a chance, Calder said simply. A chance to find out if what I feel for you is real. If what I think you feel for me is real too. Nia's heart hammered in her chest. That's a big sacrifice for a maybe. Some things are worth the risk, Calder replied, his eyes never leaving hers. Some people are worth the risk. Before Nia could respond, her phone rang, Diana's ringtone. She hesitated, torn between answering and continuing this pivotal conversation. You should get that, Calder said. It might be important. With a nod, Nia answered the call. Hello? Nia? Diana's voice was unusually urgent. Walter's had another episode. He's at Memorial Hospital. Calder's not answering his phone, and I thought you might know how to reach him. He's here, Nia said, her stomach dropping. With me. What happened? Chest pains again, Diana replied. They think it might be more serious this time. Nia looked at Calder, whose expression had shifted from confusion to concern. We'll be right there, she promised, ending the call. My father? Calder asked, already knowing the answer. Hospital? Nia confirmed, grabbing her purse. Let's go. The ride to the hospital was tense and silent, both of them lost in worried thoughts. When they arrived, Diana was waiting for them in the emergency waiting area, her usually perfect composure slightly frayed. They're running tests, she told Calder. The doctor will update us soon. What happened? Calder demanded. He was fine last night. Apparently he collapsed while having breakfast this morning, Diana explained. His housekeeper called 911. Calder ran a hand over his face, the gesture betraying his fear. Without thinking, Nia reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. He'll be okay, she said softly. He's strong. Calder looked down at their joined hands, then at her face. Something passed between them, an understanding, a connection deeper than words. He nodded, not letting go of her hand as they sat down to wait. Hours passed. Diana left to handle some urgent company matters, but promised to return. Calder made phone calls, ensuring the business would run smoothly in his absence. Nia stayed by his side, a steady presence as they waited for news. Finally, a doctor appeared. Mr. Sterling? He called, and Calder stood immediately, still holding Nia's hand. "That's me. How's my father?" "Stable," the doctor said, bringing visible relief to both Calder and Nia. "He had a minor heart attack, but we caught it in time. He'll need surgery to place a stent, but his prognosis is good." "Can we see him?" Calder asked. Briefly, the doctor agreed. "He's being prepped for surgery, but you can have a few minutes." They followed the doctor to a curtained area where Walter lay, looking smaller and more vulnerable than Nia had ever seen him. Despite the tubes and monitors, his eyes brightened when he saw them, particularly when he noticed their joined hands. "Well, well," he said, his voice weaker but still carrying that familiar warmth. "Looks like it takes another health scare to bring you two together." "Dad," Calder admonished gently, moving to his bedside, "focus on getting better, not on matchmaking." Walter chuckled weakly. "Can't help it. Old habits." Nia approached the other side of the bed, smiling down at the man who had become so important in her life. "You scared us, Walter." "Sorry about that," he apologized. "Bad timing, I know. You two looked like you were finally figuring things out." Calder and Nia exchanged a glance, neither confirming nor denying his observation. "Mr. Sterling," a nurse interrupted, "we need to take you to surgery now." Walter nodded, then looked between Calder and Nia once more. "Life's short," he told them seriously. "Don't waste it pretending you don't care about each other." With those parting words, he was wheeled away, leaving Calder and Nia standing in the empty space, his words hanging between them. "He's right," Calder said finally, turning to face Nia fully. "I'm tired of pretending." "So am I," Nia admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm scared, Calder, of what people will think, of ruining my career, of—" she hesitated, "of not being enough for someone like you." Calder shook his head, stepping closer. "You've never been more wrong about anything in your life, Nia Palmer. The question isn't whether you're enough for me. It's whether I'm worthy of someone like you." Before she could respond, he continued, his voice low and intense. "You stopped for someone who had nothing to offer you. That kind of loyalty, that kind of heart. It's rare, and I've been falling for you since the moment I heard what you did for my father." Nia's eyes filled with tears. "What about Sterling & Co.? Your position, my career?" "We'll figure it out," Calder promised. "Together. I'll take the national board position. Diana will become CEO. You'll continue to rise through the ranks on your own merit, which you would anyway because you're brilliant." "And us?" Nia asked, hardly daring to hope. "Us," Calder repeated, a smile spreading across his face as he took both her hands in his. "I want there to be an us, Nia. Without complications, without hiding, just you and me seeing where this goes." In that sterile hospital hallway, with Walter heading to surgery and their future still uncertain, Nia made a decision. She had spent her life being cautious, responsible, putting others first. Maybe it was time to take a chance on her own happiness. "I want that too," she whispered. Calder's smile widened, and he pulled her gently into his arms. Their first kiss was tender, a promise of more to come, a beginning rather than an ending. When they pulled apart, Calder rested his forehead against hers. "We should probably go to the waiting room," he murmured. "The surgery will take a few hours." "I'm not going anywhere," Nia assured him. "I'll be right here with you." 3 months later, Walter Sterling stood proudly at the podium of the Sterling Foundation's annual gala. Fully recovered from his surgery, he looked healthier and happier than he had in years. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the gathered crowd, "it gives me great pleasure to introduce our new initiative, the Nia Palmer Scholarship Fund, dedicated to helping promising young people achieve their educational dreams." Applause filled the ballroom as Nia, stunning in a gown she had purchased herself, with her own money from her recent promotion, stepped forward to accept the honor. Calder watched from the front table, pride evident in his expression. So much had changed in those 3 months. Calder had accepted the position on the national board. Diana had taken over as CEO of Sterling & Co., and Nia had been promoted to Director of Special Projects, reporting directly to Diana rather than Calder, removing the last professional barrier between them. Their relationship had blossomed in the open, facing down the inevitable gossip with dignity and patience, until even skeptics like Vanessa had to acknowledge that they were the real deal. As Nia finished her speech and returned to the table, Calder took her hand, bringing it to his lips in a gesture that had become familiar and precious. "Proud of you," he murmured. "Thank you," she replied, her eyes shining, "for everything." Walter, watching them from nearby, smiled in satisfaction. Sometimes, he reflected, the best business decisions were the ones made from the heart, and bringing Nia Palmer into their lives first into Sterling and Coy, then into their family, was the best decision he'd made in years. Later that evening, as Nia and Calder danced beneath the chandeliers, she couldn't help marveling at how much her life had changed since that fateful morning when she stopped to help a stranger on the sidewalk. "Penny for your thoughts?" Calder asked, his arms secure around her waist. "I was just thinking about missed opportunities," Nia replied. "How missing that interview turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me." Calder smiled, that special smile he reserved only for her. "To the shift that changed everything," he said softly. "To us," Nia agreed, rising on tiptoes to kiss him as they continued to dance. No longer hiding, no longer pretending, no longer afraid of what the future might hold, because now they would face it together. The following week, Nia found an envelope on her desk at Sterling & Co. Inside was a note from Calder. "The first time we met you were late. Because you saved someone I loved. If you're ready, I'd like to take you to dinner. This time, as a woman who saved more than a job, you saved me from forgetting what real looks like." She looked up to find him standing in her doorway, smiling. "No suit, just him." "Dinner?" he asked simply. Nia smiled back, her heart full, always. As they walked out together, hand in hand, Nia realized that sometimes the biggest opportunities in life aren't the ones you're chasing, but the ones that find you when you're busy being true to yourself. And for Nia Palmer, missing that interview had led her to exactly where she was meant to be. The end.